Welcome back to the Daily Dope. I'm your host and commentator, Brian Strong, over here. And I'm just going to get right to the story. Y'all remember, I'm talking to Michigan, my Michigan people here. Let's move me around a little bit. All right, so y'all, if you're from Michigan, you remember that we passed a medical marijuana law that the people um, basically put together, and we had a vote for it, and it was a big landslide, like 64%, and this became a mandate. And yeah, it was since it's been passed, we've always been hearing about how it was vague and how it didn't have certain things in it that people do in the medical marijuana world. For example, it didn't have dispensaries in it, so of course the state of Michigan, being the right wing, like authoritarian force that it is, decided that, well, if it ain't in there, I guess it's got to be illegal. The only way people can get medicine is from their caregiver unless they grow it themselves. Which is all this is absurd, to say that the vagueness of the law prohibits certain things. But whatever, I guess that's the kind of what we're living under over here in Michigan. Furthermore, so we had another problem with the law, is it didn't mention anything about edible marijuana, and it didn't mention anything about extracts, concentrates. So they decided to go ahead and finally write their own rules for that in 2016, and incorporated it into the old law by amending the old law. It's basically allowing for concentrates and edibles. They didn't say exactly where these things came from or how they were regulated or anything like that. Um, Especially the concentrates. It really, basically just said that concentrates, you're not supposed to do a butane extraction inside a domicile, I believe, or I'm not sure the exact wording, but they basically said no blowing your wax in the house. All right, and I mean that's a good, who can argue with that? Um, but they didn't really address that issue, and furthermore, they didn't really address the dispensary issue. Was basically addressed by creating a whole nother system of distribution and production than what was going on for the previous 8 to 9 years before this new law passed. The 2008 law, even though it didn't mention dispensaries, they were being go ahead, and people were, certain municipalities were just like, yeah, we're just going to let you guys do this anyway. And they might even have had their own regulations. Some might have, some might not have. Some were just allowed to exist. Maybe they paid some local assessment fees and licensing or whatever, and basically some of them got busted. It was, you were taking your chances running it. And then in 2012, they said, okay, those are illegal, and people still ran them until 2016 when they finally passed the laws. But the old ones that were running, they had to get shut down to make room for the new ones. And very few, if any, in my limited, but I'm keeping my ears to the ground a little bit on this. Very few of the people that used to have dispensaries, percentage wise, are actually getting licenses. And most of the reason for that is because they're in municipalities that aren't going to allow them anymore. How ironic is that? So one of the things that they definitely, didn't fix, that we've been yammering about since the law was passed, and I almost didn't like the law when it was written, and when we went to vote on it, I was kind of skeptical, because it was like, I just by reading it out loud, I was like, wow, there's going to be a situation where these caregivers are going to be stuck with a lot of extra weed, and over the years, we've seen what happened with that. And now they did all these new laws to make these new regulations for the market of medical marijuana, but they didn't address the overage problem. they fucking didn't even mention it. Like, you know what? We're not even going to bother even looking at that problem or even acknowledging that that is a problem. But that's one of the things that we've always been, been threatened with. Oh, the law is too vague and you can't sell. Like if you had extra marijuana and you're a caregiver, you weren't allowed to that. The only people that can get it from you was your patients. So it isn't like you could just take it to somebody else and sell it to them to get to distribute to their patients or even another patient. So, and what people were doing was obviously they were taking their extra medicine to the dispensaries, and that's what propped up the dispensaries, and everything was working just fine in that regard. So the new regulations getting rid of that kind of throws a big wrench into what was already there, and a lot of people might just think, well, the new way is going to be better when all the kinks are worked out, when everything smooths out, it'll be better. Better for who though? And why? What are we doing here? We're stepping away. We're stepping on the people that started this whole thing, the caregivers and the original dispensaries. For who? Who's going to step in and take over? You guys got a bunch of new people that are coming in, you Republicans in Lansing? Because what I'm about to tell you is pretty scary shit, guys. They didn't fix any of the fucking problems that were too vague with the law. Yeah, they allowed dispensaries, but it's under such stringent regulation that almost nobody would want to open one. And the growing is on such a large scale that people that were, previously caregivers don't want to take the chance of trying to, change their whole life by opening up one of these multiple thousand plant facilities, I never got into this thing to become a millionaire or whatever. So Michigan's always had all these same problems that never get addressed. Like, sick of the potholes? Well, we got solutions for you now. Now you can churn in your pothole damage to the state and get a reimbursement. Whatever. You already can do that up to $1,000, but they want to make that $5,000. What else did they slip in? Now, these are bills that were put in on April 19th. So while everybody was gearing up for the big day on 420 to celebrate cannabis and medical marijuana, these guys in Lansing, man, they're so fucking sinister. Now, this is definitely part of this corporate takeover that Lansing is attempting to do, and it's in that vein. But I have yet to see a bunch of these people that are supposedly going to take over the industry. I want someone to point them out to me. Where are they? Like, this is another thing that seems to me like somebody from the industry that knows what's going on is like, hey, we're going to have some serious competition from these caregivers and patients that can make their own wax and make their own Simpson oil. Because let's face it, in Michigan, those are some pretty popular medical marijuana items. Wax and Simpson oil. Huge. Very big. Everybody that uses medical marijuana uses Simpson oil or wax or both. Make no mistake about it. Just about everybody that knows how to grow marijuana in Michigan knows how to safely extract cannabis extracts, cannabinoids, whether it be through chemical extraction processes or whether it be by using non-chemical extract like water. We know a lot of people that make water extracts. You can do a rosin extract where you just take two hot plates and put the bud in between them and press them together and it gives you an extract. So those are pretty safe ways to go. I mean, even if you do butane extracts, which seems to be like the meth lab of marijuana in people's minds, you can do them a very safe way to do it. There's at least 3 safe ways to do it I know about that you could never blow anything up in. So the idea that we need to curtail people blowing up their houses trying to extract with butane is a little bit over the top. All right. More people injure themselves using ladders every year than with butane. So, I mean, for real, there's absolutely no reason to jump up and be like, we need to do this regulation big time. This is a big epidemic. People are blowing shit up everywhere. It's not even the case. In fact, I live in a small town, but in this small town I live in, we've had at least 5 meth lab explosions in the last 10 years that I know of that made headlines. Come on, man. We haven't had any butane explosions in this little town that I live in that I know of. So what we have here is a set of 3 bills to prohibit the chemical extraction of resin from marijuana unless a facility is licensed. And obviously, I mean, if that don't tell you that this is part of the corporate takeover, I don't know what else to tell you. Besides that everybody that sponsored the bill is Republicans from places that are, let's just say, upper middle class, and by the way, man, how many people really even smoke weed in Monroe or Mount Clemens? I don't know, man. I don't know anything about you guys, but I know this. Somebody knows that there's a lot of competition out there for wax. I mean, and of course there is. And so you're going to have a marijuana processing facility license, which is a pretty expensive license, but I've already went over this before. If you're going to do marijuana processing in Michigan for medical marijuana products, you're probably going to have a lot of assets and money anyway, and be able to get loan if you need it for more, because you can easily spend thousands of dollars on extraction equipment, thousands more on ovens and other processing equipment that you're going to need. Just a laboratory alone could run you 30 grand. I mean, this is like a problem. The problem I have with it isn't that we're talking about commercial endeavors here. With what they want to do with licensing it, it definitely is, which is fine. But there's also a lot of people that aren't going to be participating in this commercial market. So for example, if you're a caregiver and you have 5 patients and none of them can make extractions like Simpson oil, which you would use for that, you would use probably rubbing alcohol or paint thinner like naphtha or acetone or something, and all of those are very flammable. But you can do it in a safe way. And basically, when you say that you would prohibit the chemical extraction of resin from marijuana unless a facility is licensed, then you're saying that a caregiver is no longer allowed to make oil for a patient, or a patient can't even make their own oil. You're saying that they have absolutely no choice, that if they want to continue to use oil or wax, they have to go to the dispensary and buy it. This is just obscene, what they're trying to do right here. I have no other. I really don't know what else to say about this other than this is an obscene power grab. And why do I say this is a power grab? Well, here's your numbers right here. Michigan has 2.2% of the overall population of Michigan is medical marijuana card holding citizens, patients. That's the third highest, I think. Now maybe the fourth. All right, yeah, it's the fourth highest. You have California at 3% of their population, and 3% of Maine's, and 2.3 in New Mexico. A lot of people in Michigan have medical marijuana cards. A lot. All right, 218,000 patients. The dispensaries that were already there, did they sell wax and oil? Yeah. It wasn't flying off the shelves, but they sold it. What was the price? Rick Simpson oil would run you anywhere from 40 to 80, sometimes $100 a gram at a dispensary in Michigan. And wax, depending on whether it was crumble or shatter, same price breakdown, a gram. So, and this is something that a caregiver would just take a bunch of trim that you normally would not really have any use for, except for to make butter maybe or something. They would take the trim and make the wax or the oil from the trim so that the patients, so everybody could have basically wax and oil. That practice is no longer going to be allowed if this law gets voted into law. Imagine that. If you don't believe me, let me just give you a quick synopsis. One of my viewers sent me this, and thank you for that. And I wish I had more than what you sent me, bro. But to be quite honest, nope. This is all there is. This is it. And that little blurb on that was that Free Press? Yeah, that little blurb right there is all you get. This is the kind of thing they would love to do in the dark of night when nobody's looking. And, if you know what goes on in state houses, and believe it happens in Lansing, half the people don't even show up to vote, but people will vote for them. As soon as it comes up for a vote, they got these sticks where they just hit the guy next to him's thing to vote for it. This is going to get voted on, and it will get voted into law. I'm just going to guess. Now, why do I say that? Because it's something that adds something to something that's already there. A lot of this other stuff is kind of new shit. If you look at all these different bills, it's kind of ridiculous, some of them. These are just somebody trying to say something, and by writing it into a bill, you at least got to hear them announce it in front of the House or some shit. All the way to just partisan bullshit and partisan bickering. And this is not that. This is something that looks like real shit that someone's trying to get in, and I'm sure they're going to get it to go through. So let's go ahead and look at this blurb in the Medical Marijuana Association's blog post from Michael Comorn. Sorry, one of the medical marijuana activist lawyers in Michigan. And he says, when the legislator banned a patient and caregiver from extracting medical marijuana using butane inside of a residence, the reason given was for the safety of the public. And we all can agree that that's, why would you do that? You shouldn't extract with butane inside something that doesn't have super good ventilation. I mean, it's just, you're begging for a problem. So everybody could agree with that. Changes to the MMMA proposed by Tristan Cole do not rely on safety or any logical reason at all. This kind of power grab is frightening. It's one thing to ban an activity. It's quite another to make extracting marijuana a 5-year felony. Oh yeah, I'm getting there. This isn't just, we're going to make this a crime, and, if we catch you, we're going to give you heavy fines and throw you in jail for a couple months. No, this is serious business. They're acting like you're building bombs and shit. Matter of fact, you probably would get less time if you were building a bomb and you had a list of places you were going to mail bombs to. Tristan Cole wants extracting marijuana to carry a longer sentence of 5 years in prison when the manufacturer of marijuana is only a 4-year sentence. What is next? Making a felony out of medical marijuana patient baking their own brownies? Make it a felony for a medical marijuana patient to grow their own medicine? Oh, they wanted to. I did a story about that in 2016 where the police agencies in Michigan wanted to get rid of the law, the patient caregiver system. How you can't do that. You need a supermajority to even change it. Now, when I say that, they can amend it with just a regular majority vote, and that's what they're trying to do here. I'll show you that in a second, though. All right, so this would ban ISO extraction and ice water extraction, not to mention CO2 and other forms of extraction. Talk with your representative about these bills. Tell them to leave medical marijuana patients alone and give them the same respect as other patients. Now, the thing about it is when you're talking about extractions, you could even call a rosin extraction a chemical extraction if you wanted to. It's a chemical reaction that happens. So, I mean, these guys just want it to be they are the only ones manufacturing wax and oil. Not they as in the government themselves, but when I'm talking about this corporate takeover, they are the people that pay the big money, the people that they can get the taxes from, no problem. That's why they don't want to let caregivers go to the dispensaries with overage. They don't want caregivers to make wax and oil because they're trying to tax patients for using the marijuana products that the caregivers provide them with already. It's a power grab. Thank you, Michael. You nailed it. It's a straight up power grab. And then this is what the bill modifies the MMFLA to make it explicit that only a processor licensee or its agents can extract marijuana resin. Persons should not knowingly extract resin from marijuana by chemical extraction unless that person holds a processor license. An individual should not knowingly extract resin from marijuana by chemical extraction unless he or she is employed by a person that holds a processor license and performs the extraction in the course of his or her employment. Like, no, you can't do it at home. An individual who extracts resin from marijuana by chemical extraction in the course of his or her own employment, or who reasonably believes his or her employer holds a processor license, is not in violation of this subsection. A person that violates subsection 6 or 7 is guilty of a felony punishable as follows, except as approved in subdivisions, and imprisonment for not more than 5 years, or a fine of not more than $5,000 or both. And then B, if the violation causes serious injury to another person, imprisonment for not more than 10 years or a fine of not more than $5,000 or both. As used in this subdivision, serious injury means a physical injury that is not necessarily permanent, but that constitutes seriously bodily disfigurement or that seriously impairs the functioning of a body organ or limb. Serious injury includes but is not limited to one or more of the following. And then it goes on to tell you that if the violation causes the death of another person, imprisonment for not more than 20 years or a fine of not more than $5,000 or both. Now, when it comes to those things, when you're talking about hurting other people because you blew up your butane lab or killing somebody, God forbid, when it comes to those two items, those are already things that you would already face those kind of sentences, except for they wouldn't be that harsh. For example, if you accidentally ran into somebody while you were driving your car and you got some kind of a, lesser charge than it was malicious, but they still charged you for injuring the person, even if you caused the person's death and you were even like, it was just an accident, but they still gave you a vehicular manslaughter charge, you could still get, 5 years in prison. But that's like a top end. It's like a top end if you're drinking and driving, man. Like, this is ridiculous. All right. First of all, you just slow down. You want to give someone 5 years in prison just for blowing wax in their backyard. That doesn't make sense. It's more dangerous to go to prison for 5 years than to blow your fucking butane up. That's a fact. It's more dangerous for the police to come in there and do a raid for everybody involved than to just, let someone do a butane extract. And isn't this kind of like the Darwin type thing, like survival of the smartest and fittest and all this shit? Like, I know when the cops come because someone blows up their butane lab, they're not like, oh, let's get you to the hospital and make sure you're okay. No, they put the handcuffs on you and take you right to jail like you're a frickin', like you're somebody that just tried to do bomb the federal building or something. So that's pretty insane. And then we have this, modifies the medical marijuana, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act of 2008, removing all immunity if a patient or caregiver extracts plant resin by chemical extraction. The medical use of marijuana is allowed under state law to the extent that it is carried out in accordance with provisions of this act. This act does not permit any person to do any of the following. And then one of the items in the list is number 6, separate plant resin from a marijuana plant by chemical extraction. Here's all they want to add to the old MMMA. Right here, they amend Section 7. And then this is the thing that I just told you about. This act does not permit you to undertake. All right, so here's all the other items that they don't want you to do. We're not going to go through that. But then you get to this one. Separate plant resin from a marijuana plant by chemical extraction. It used to say, by butane extraction in any public place, a motor vehicle, or inside or within the curtilage of any residential structure. So technically, if you could go out to the backyard somewhere and extract out there with, within a reasonable distance from any house or car or anything, then that would have been fine. Now they're scratching all that off and saying, if you even go out there in the middle of your backyard where there's no grass or anything, you could just be a cement slab, and extracting there would be illegal. That's, I don't know, separate plant resin from marijuana plant by butane extraction in a manner that demonstrates a failure to exercise reasonable care or reckless disregard for the safety of others. That would be reasonable. And in that, I don't think anybody, you don't see like this rash of people blowing these fucking, butane extraction labs up. You just don't. And this is really hurting people that have already been doing stuff that aren't going to get a processor license. They don't have any plans in the future to get a processor license, but somehow they've been processing good wax or good oil for years on a commercial level. And, if you're on the scene in Detroit, then you know a little bit more about that than me. I'm kind of out of the loop now. But I'm telling you, man, these people are going to be like, what? No, I'm going to keep doing what I do. And I don't know, what their end goal is here. Like, are they gonna make an arrest to make an example out of somebody? I don't, what the hell? So again, to review the 3 different things that they're voting on, that they might vote on, I'm not sure. I mean, they were introduced on the 19th, the day before the big holiday that everybody celebrates. Meanwhile, the corporate takeover people are in the background, just, plotting just seriously crazy shit. All right. They're trying to take away our medicine. That's what I keep saying in Michigan, it's either the corporate takeover or maybe they're just trying to fuck us over really hard on our medicine. They just don't want us to have our medicine, man. They want us to go to Big Pharma for the pills. They don't want you to have Simpson oil. They don't want you to have CBD oil. They don't want you to have wax. They don't want, in a minute you're not going to be able to find any medibles because there's nothing regulated. They don't even have a dispensary opened yet. So I think the latter might be the case, guys. I don't think they really care about the corporate takeover. And the few people that they do have that are highly connected that are going to benefit from getting licenses and doing all this shit, they're not going to take over the whole state's industry. They're just going to be little players that handle this and that. And I mean, we're going to see major droughts in medicine in this state all year. I guarantee it. I mean, if you know somebody and you're, connected, and I don't think that anything's going to happen. I'm not saying they're going to start busting a bunch of growers and shit. But I'm saying this shit's going to start coming down to like, you don't have a caregiver or it's hard to find because the people that you know are stretched thin or something. If you're the kind of person that had to go to the dispensary before, you're definitely in trouble. And I remember back when they said there would be these gaps and all this shit, they were like, well, everybody can find a caregiver, or maybe more people need to become caregivers or something. They knew that wasn't going to happen. The number of caregivers has been doing nothing but going down every year because, quite frankly, it's a lot of work. Not a lot of people really can do the caregiving thing for other people very efficiently. And, quite frankly, man, the learning curve gets a lot of people. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go grow weed and be a fucking weed guy, and next thing you know it, they're broke and they owe everybody money. And that has been played out like thousands of times in Michigan. I know so many people. So, but for the people that do know what they're doing and do care about their product and do care about their medicine, this is this is a total rail job to anybody. If I don't know what we can do about it. Again, people always ask me, well, what can we do about it? I don't know. Protesting doesn't seem to help. You could write these guys, but these guys don't listen to us. These guys are Republicans in Lansing. They don't listen to us. They listen to the lobbyists. And the lobbyists are people that used to be called Responsible Michigan. They're a bunch of former Republican Party, elites. And they wanted to take over the marijuana business back in 2016. Now what are they doing? They're taking over the marijuana business in 2018 and beyond. So I don't know what else to tell you guys. Yell about it as loud as you can, wherever you got a microphone or a blowhorn. That's why I'm doing this clip. And yeah, looks like these and again, just to summarize, the first one basically says, hey, you know what, if you don't have a processor license, then you don't make resin extracts with chemicals. And then this one here gives you the sentencing guideline. 5 years just for making it. 20 years if you blow somebody up and kill them. And then it adds this stuff. It modifies, see, it only modifies what they already added. So I don't think that's going to require a 3/4 majority vote to change. But, they basically don't want you to do anything in the way of making real medicine out of your trim or making more potent medicine out of your buds. And that's it. That's all I got on this, guys. I wish I had more. I wish more people were talking about it. I'm glad I was turned on to this story. That's all I got, man. I'm really sad to see this. I don't know what to think about it. I don't know what to do about it. I want to say that I know there's a lot of people out there that safely do extractions every day, and they're probably not really going to pay too much attention to this, if they even know it even happened. And then if it does get voted into law, are they going to make an example out of somebody? That's the only question I have left. It's going to be ugly if they do. That's all I got.